I'm different because my normal little tripod has not been very good recently, so I'm trying a different one. But I'm probably going to get another one of these because they're actually quite good. So we're looking at something similar but different. First, have a look at this. It's blue, made out of Lego. And not important to this video. Now, we're looking at something different today. It's not Matchbox. It is Cars, but it's not Matchbox. And if you've already read the title, you might be thinking, what is a slot car? Because that's probably what I'm going to call this video. It's a car that you race. And I used to race them, amateur-like. I used to race them in a club in a place called Quorn, of all places. And I went into the attic because the Super Kings job lot I brought on eBay, I actually lost the bid, and that's really annoying because it was a really nice collection of things that would have made a great video. So now I have to run around and look for other things to do whilst I buy other things off eBay to do the reviews for the things that are actually quite popular on this show, whereas this is just something that probably won't go anywhere. But yes, so I went into the attic and pulled out my box. It's a box. It's quite a heavy box as well. It's got a couple of things on them. They haven't got anything in them, though. And this is a box full of my old slot cars, of which I used to race about 4 of them, and the rest are just crap. And I'm going to look at them, because I'd really like to take slot car racing up again, but unfortunately, because of my work, I just can't, because I can't reliably get there. And despite driving a bus for a living, I don't actually own a car. Yay. So, well, I own a lot of cars, but I don't drive a car that I can feasibly fit inside and drive at the same time. Because you can drive these, but you can't fit inside them. You've got an RC car. You can drive that, but you can't sit inside it because it's an RC car. I suppose you've got 2 together and stood them. You could drive along like a hoverboard, but now we're just being ridiculous. So yes, let's have a look. And I may splice in some footage as well. I'm actually going to put this down to the side so there's more room on the table, because if I remember, there's quite a few cars in here. And annoyingly, I went into the outhouse to look for my old track, and I've given a lot of it away, including the bloody power supplies. So I can't actually run one of these horses. Yay! Horses? Somebody just sent me a message on Telegram about horses. Hello. My brother just sent me a message. Hello. I can't actually do anything about it. So we can't see the cars running, unfortunately. But if we ever do microscale electrics, we can do that. But yes, this is the top layer full of bits and pieces, including some Ronsol lighter fluid. And the reason you have lighter fluid is because with tyres, you rub a tiny bit of lighter fluid on a cloth like this and then rub it over the tyres, and it sort of just regenerates them ever so slightly. It's a very worn out tyre. It regenerates them ever so slightly and just gives them a little bit more grip on the track. Although you're not allowed to use Scalextric's tyres because they drop silicone on tracks, and most tracks in semi kind of amateur professional racing don't allow it. So, NC8 thruster. We'll get into the NCs. Don't worry, we'll get... Oh, so that's where all my screwdrivers went. We'll get into the NCs and the spare brush handles and... Oh, God, there's a screwdriver in there. That's a story. And, brushes. So these are just my spare bits and pieces. How about an axle? Don't even think I know what that's of. Oh, a penny. Spare motors. Some of these will be older than me. Yeah, that looks like a motor out of Bessie. That's an NC1. This is the standard kind of motor you get in Ninco cars. And what's an Ninco car? Well, you'll find out fairly soon. Because there's more brands. It's sticky. Ew. Oh, it's polycement. Don't even know what that circuit board is. There's more cars available than just Scalextrics, which might surprise a few of you, because it certainly surprised me when I learnt that fact. I just realised these 2 pennies are taped together, and there's a very good reason for that. But let's move on from the tool supplies for the moment in time. We'll leave the axle and the tyre there for good measure. This is going to be useful. This got given to me whilst I was at the club, because you use it to place cars on top of, like this. And then they can sit there and look pretty and not actually be touching the table or floor or anything, which doesn't bother me that much, but can bother people who are professional. So what's this? It's an Aston Martin. It's been glued. It's been draped. It's a Scalextrics. Yeah, DB9. DBR9. From Hornby, so we're one of the more recent ones. And as I said, the club that I went to don't actually allow you to race Scalextric's cars or Hornby cars unless you change the tyres, because they have silicone in them, which comes off as they're driving and leaves black marks on the track. Literal skid marks from cars. So you're not allowed to drive them. So this one, it got a little bit of driving, but not much, because I never really drove it. But yeah, no, it's actually quite a nice car. It's one of the first ones I brought when I realised I was going to go to this club. So it's one of the first cars I brought. Not the first one, but one of the first cars I brought. And ironically, it never got driven. Now, we've got a lot of crap in here, and Jesus, there's a lot. Oh, my goodness. Right, well, let's start with these. If you can't tell, these are just bodies. These are old bodies, and the only reason they're here is because these are some of the first cars I ever drove. This one and another one in the box. We don't know. I think it's the other one. It's the first car I ever drove, and it's got my dad's initials on it. And as you can see, it's literally in bits at the moment because it has been stripped down. But since it's all there, I've always been meaning to just remake it. It's sort of classic 80s design. Yeah, it's sort of mid-ish 80s, maybe a bit earlier than that. It's quite nice. This one I made up for a little bit, then broke down. And this one was also made up, but it was taken down again because it was just never quite as powerful. I think the engine was knackered when we got it. Because my dad, he called me up to the attic one day, just randomly, oh, Mario, come to the attic, as you do. And there's a little figure 8 track with this car, that scrap, and 2 other cars, which I've got one of them here. And yeah, there was much scale electricing. Yay! Scale electricing might not be a word, but it is now. So yes, they actually kind of mean a lot to me, and I've held on to them, and I will rebuild that one at some point. Really like to get back into it. Oh my goodness! Wow. Okay, let's pull up this one. This is actually a very competent car. Here we go. This is in need of a new screw. What is it? I don't actually remember what it is, but well. It's a Red Bull. It's a Mitsubishi something with a number plate that's not straight. As you can see, the body is loose because it's missing a screw at the back, most likely because I had it open and took it apart. This is an interesting one because if you look, if I turn the back wheels, the front wheels turn. As this does have a very basic 4-wheel drive system. You see the little red thing there? It's got a rubber band. There's one on each end that goes around and drives the front. So you've actually got 4-wheel drive slot cars. And I'm not calling them scale electrics, because scale electrics seems to have a bit of a monopoly on the market, but Ninco is probably the best, and this runs with a Ninco NC5 speeder, which it gives you the information there. It's quite a powerful engine. You can also see, if I pull up the other engine, here we go, an Ninco NC1, put them side by side, you can see there is also a size difference. I mean, it'll be going that way. But yeah, so no, this is a car I actually drove quite a lot in casual when it was like a free choice. This was one of the ones I used to pick quite frequently because it's a very nice car to drive. But the best car I had to drive, which was also one of the rarest, I ended up giving to my ex as he wanted it to go back, which is fine. I don't actually regret that. But yeah, no, this is an Inco. It's an NC5, nice brushes, drives very well. It costs about 20 quid, which is pretty damn good. There's about 10 cars in here, and they're not all good. Like this one. This is a spares and repairs. It's some kind of Porsche. As you can see, it's definitely seen better days. It's got a Porsche 911. Oh, it is an Inco. It's got an NC1 rammed in it at the moment. Is the I think I can just, there you go. I've lost it as a screw. This is literally a spares and repairs. I've got a couple of these vehicles actually that were just brought to be done up. I don't remember how you take this bottom plate off. Ah, there's still a screw there. I've actually got. Hey, I've got a tool set here with some screwdrivers in it. Why don't we, use the screwdrivers? There we go, and actually take some things out. There we go. Oh, ow, 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 ow. There we go. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Yeah, I had this one running at one point. I know for certain. Oh, this is a lot of hassle considering how many cars we've got to get through. And we're already 8 minutes in. Bloody hell, where does the time go? But yeah, as you can see, it's an NC1. It's actually got a bit of weight in the front here. It's added effect, and it looks like something's caught fire. There's a lot of dust. This was an eBay car, I believe. And the nice thing about these engines is they actually have these little... I mean, scale electrics do the same thing, but they have the little plate things over, and you slip those into the brushes. Bristles makes them connect. So technically, I can speak English. This would actually be a very, very easy car to hook up. All I need to do is put the rear axle in, which, thinking about it, is probably this one. Obviously into the hole like so. It's got a couple of wheels, it's got a couple of little things. Clip it in there like that, and I wanted to put a larger engine in it, but because of the way it's set up, you can't take it. But yeah, you'd literally clip that in like that, and the NC would run. This does not feel like a good fit, and it vibrates quite violently. The whole middle bit vibrates. And as you can see, it's come out. So yeah, this is not a good fit, but that's what you do, and then you put it back together, and you drive it and realise it was awful and put it back to a spares and repairs, because that is literally what it is. Unfortunately, this is a spares and repairs, and because these screws are very prone to getting lost, and I don't actually want to lose the damn things, because hey, this car will probably never run again unless I, take the hobby up again, which I said I'd really like to do, but there's nothing in my local area that I can get to on a damn bus. Yeah, this car's not going to run, which is kind of sad. It's a sort of project that you kind of put to one side. And talking about losing screws, there you go. It's actually gone on to the bloody magnetised engine. Come on, I haven't got all day, and we spent way too long talking about a single car. I've actually got quite a few cars that aren't runners, but this is probably the worst conditioned one. Minus those which just don't have engines. There's this one. I think this is, this is an old Triang. I've actually got a couple of cars that are genuine kind of copies of Triangs from the 80s Hong Kong, but this one is a legitimate Triang, and from what I remember, so I'm annoyed I don't have a power supply. I can't run the damn things. I thought I had one. I don't. It's made me cross, unless it's upstairs. I'll probably find it when I'm looking for the thing for next week. If we can focus in. Old Triang, Scale Electrics. Look, I put new bristles on it. It's got a suspension system, which is actually really nice to get, a turning system. It's a Porsche. It's actually quite nice and has a driver. This will have come in a job collection of a couple of cars, about 4 or 5 cars I got from my dad's mate, I think. Dr. Enzo. And this is one of 2 I've kept. Or this one came off eBay, one of the 2. But I just like the fact it does that. It's a nice little car. Ran quite well, but the tyres have... Actually, that one's still quite soft. That one's quite soft. These tyres are pretty good compared to how the tyres on the other car, which is also my most driven car in the club, which is why I don't go anymore, because they got fed up with me there. Oh, here we go. Little Mini. Literally just a little Mini. Nothing special here. It's got a standard Scale Electrics motor in it. Nothing special. It's it's quite an old one. It'll be an 80s, late 80s. As you can see, the wires come off the engine there. This was brought as a fixer-upper that, hey, surprise, surprise, I never fixed up. Assumingly, it would just need a pair of brushes and the wires putting in place, and it will probably run fairly competently. But it's a nice little Mini. I quite liked it. And so, yeah. There's this one. Which one is this? I don't know, but the engine's been taken out. This is another Ninco. As you can see, I mentioned before, the engine taken out. These engines are about 20 bloody quid a piece. 20 bloody quid for an engine. You can buy a car for that. Well, a slot car or a matchbox. But yeah, this was quite a nice little car. It ran very well. I remember it fondly. I drove it quite a lot. I don't remember what the engine came out of, what it went into, rather. I do not remember, which annoys me. It probably went into... No bloody clue. Possibly that. Actually, it might have gone into that. But yeah, no, nice car, ran well. It should really fix up. Windscreen is loose. Cars. Aren't they great? I had 2 of these. I think I've only got 1 now, and I've just knocked the camera, haven't I? This is an old Scale Electrics Pioneer Total. What is it? It's say on the bottom, I've forgotten. Oh, it's the Lancia. That's why I kept it, because it's a bloody Lancia. I like Lancias. I think I even put new screws in it. This one runs fine, and it actually has lights in the front that when you apply power, the lights come on. You can... this is the first car I drove at said club. It needs new brushes. I only drove it once because it's an old Scale Electrics and I brought it into Ninco quite quickly. But I like this car a lot, which is why I kept it. I had another one which is coloured that I painted, and I wish I hadn't. Or at least I had another one. I don't think I've got it anymore. And if I have, you're probably not seeing it. We'll save that one. Here we go. This is a Ferrari of some kind. What are you? A Ferrari GTO. There we go. And it's got a new motor in it. It's got a SCX, which is another brand of slot car, an SCX RX42 in it, because this is a car from the 90s. But when I got it, it wasn't, it wasn't in one piece. It wasn't made up. And there was a guy at the club who could get bits and pieces, and I asked him for new motors and new tyres, and he got them, and I actually had the car rebuilt. And it's not a very good runner, but it runs. And it's quite nice just to have a Ferrari that runs, because you know what Ferraris are like. Expensive and useless. But quite a nice car nonetheless. Drove it a lot. Oh, it's this one. Oh, and this one's broken up. Oh, fond memories of the Toyota Corolla with no back wheels. Yeah, another car that's just spares and repairs. There's a lot of them. Another Ninco. This one with a thruster, which I think is an NC2. No, it's an NC8. You can see... excuse me. It's 1600 RPM. Where's the other Ninco? Here we go. Let's compare engines. We've got 1600 RPM, and on this one we've got 1600 is 16,000, dipshit. 16,000, 20,000, and on the NC1, which is down here, we have, is it listed? Come on, NC1. 5,700. So that's quite a lot of revolutions per minute. You know, nobody's going to deny that's a lot of RPM. But yeah, no, Toyota Corolla, I had it up for a little bit. I couldn't keep it running, and it ended up being a spares and repairs. Again, it's just a case of sticking that in there. I think the motor's a runner and putting some back wheels on. Oh, but that does actually feel like it's seized up a little bit. No, well, that just goes over there, unfortunately. Right, onto a knockoff typey thing. This is not a Scalextrics, but it is from the sort of period. It's a Firestone thing. I'm pretty sure this is one of the ones from Hong Kong. You can hear the gears grinding. And here's the motor. It's a fairly standard motor. It looks the same as the RX one. It's quite small. You can see how the middle bit is not spinning when I turn because it keeps jamming. The gears are not aligned up. It's a very poor copy. It does have bristles. It would need a brush in there. Well, I mean a centerpiece for the bristle brushes to go on. I think this one does run. It didn't run very well because of the gearing problem and the tyres. I mean, you can see right there. Yeah, this was a very cheap buy. It was like £5. I brought it, I think, on holiday just because. Why wouldn't I want 1, 2, 3 fake Scalextrics type cars? I mean, they're actually kind of nice for what they are. They're all the... No, that one's the same. This one's different, actually. You know, this one is the same as that, though. As you can see, this one's motor turns properly. I don't think I ever got this one running. Oh, it's got... Oh, God, look at that. I forgot that. Bloody hell. Come on, autofocus. Look, this bit goes in the middle and... Oh, my gosh. I'm looking through the camera, so it's hard to tell. You see, this turns left and right. The bristles just connect to the track. It's a terrible design. It just would not work. But it looks nice. You know, you could potentially do those up to actually run as cars. This one has a more Scalextrics vibe. In fact, this might actually be Scalextrics, which would be embarrassing. It's a McLaren M23. I'm just going to put this to my face so I can have a dead quick look. McLaren M23, made in France. So no, it won't be Scalextrics. So no, it's not Scalextrics. But to be fair, it's very reminiscent of these sort of models. I've got that same chromy stuff on the back. Again, the engine appears to turn quite well, and it's not like the fact that the cable goes across the motor itself. That's going to be a problem. But it does have your standard brushes and bristles. It's got a square one, actually. Look, it's square rather than the rounded ones. But they are what they are. I think that one is also a runner, so that can go over there. We're actually running out of cars now. In fact, I've got 3 left, but one is what we'd call a monster. This is just a Porsche. This was another fixer-up, buy 'em up, put it together, never did it. This is an 80s Porsche. I've actually got a catalogue that has a couple of these cars in it, including that one. Oh, there's a box of more Scalextrics cars down there, and I'm going to have to go get it because I need to talk about those as well for these to make more sense because there's more cars in there. But yeah, no, this was a fixer-upper, never did it. Porsche, supposed to have lights in the front. Wouldn't be too hard to do again. It's again, stick the engine in, everything else is in there, put some bristles and whatnot in, jobs are good in, car can drive. Here's one of the first cars I brought. This is a nice car. Absolutely nothing wrong with it, except for the fact that there's something wrong with the gears. And when you drive it, it goes... Like, that's all it does. It goes like a bloody beast. It's genuinely a good car, but good... Yeah, you hear that noise. Imagine that at 20,000 RPM. Yeah, that's not nice. But it's a really nice car. BMW M3, I think it is. It's a Ninko. It's the first Ninko I brought. As you can see, there's a cable sticking there because I can't put bodywork back on. It's a really nice car. Would highly, highly appraise these as long as they don't go... Oh, God, don't fall over. Lamborghini Miura. Cleaned, looked after, given to me by the same chap. Old Scalextrics, 1970s, possibly 60s. Runs. And I tell you what, this is the fastest bloody car I have in the entire collection. And the tyres are so hard that you have to stop to go around every corner dead slow, otherwise you skid out. This car, I drove this one and the next one the most at the club when I stopped losing interest in being serious, because I literally never won any races, because it was a challenge. Because you take this and it would just fly by everything, and you get to a corner, it would just go like that, and then you just have to wait to be reset. But no, it's a really nice car. I actually had 3 of these, you know, different models. There was like a Ford P40 and a Pigeon Mark 9 or some crap like that. But I only kept this one. And the only mistake I made is I took everything apart and washed it fully. And what I hadn't realised is the previous owner had put lots of little bits of tape and tack and stuff in there to hold the engine steady because it wobbles. It didn't used to wobble before, and then I cleaned it. And the whole thing kind of does that as it's driving along, which really affects its control. But it's a really, really nice car. Oh, it's missing that front bit. What a shame. It's a really nice car, and I will keep that one forever and ever and ever and continue to drive it. And now for the finale. Except it's not, because we've got another bloody box that I forgot about. Which we might not do, actually. This is Bessie. Yeah. This is Bessie. What is Bessie? It's another version of this. It's basically a different model of this, slightly longer. No, about the same wheelbase, just different chassis. It is basically one of these. A mini Metro, and so it would have had a very similar engine. But Bessie is a car that's very special to me. Because Bessie, with one of her bodies, this is the first body, is the first Scalextric car I ever drove. And so I took Bessie a bit too seriously. It's one of those ones, these are old mini Metros, they used to have boots that opened. So one day, when I was bored and fed up, I decided to put a bigger engine in her. And she flew like a bloody train. She went like stink. But being quite a tall and short car, every time she reached a corner, she kind of did that. And just fell over and fell apart. There was actually a crash once where she literally exploded. It was kind of funny and awful because people were pissed off at me. So I glued a load of weights. And by weights, I mean, screwdriver heads. Which would also be what these pennies are for. They were most likely strapped over the top originally to see if that would help, but no. And when I added the weights, she stopped tipping over and started going the regular speed as if I hadn't put a new motor in her. So that was clever. But Bessie is a very special car to me. In fact, she's so special that I actually brought another body, and another body, and another body, and their miscellaneous parts, and another body, of which this is the rarest body. And I brought this at a car boot sale. It's even got its boot, although it's been glued in place, I think, so you can't take it out. But they used to fly off, but it's broken. This. And the other body, which is the second car that we had as a child. And I just prefer the white one because that was on what was on Bessie first. So I'm just going to put all those on top of Bessie. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause it. I said I'm going to pause it. Gee, what a pile of cars. Let's get some more. Forgot about this one. Yes, that was me getting something out the bloody attic. No, do not be a moron like me. My uncle actually gave me a very similar Matchbox car to this when I was a boy, and I lost it very quickly, and I'm sad. But I remember this one because it has suspension. Your car is no longer viable for service. Yeah, it's no Scalextric. This will be late 80s, early 90s. It's got a magnet in the back. This is when they started putting magnets on, which is why clubs tend to use copper track, because copper does not work with magnets. And there's something wrong here. It just doesn't work. I never got around to fixing this car. It came in a job lot, which a lot of these cars did. Here is other Bessie, possibly. Here is other Bessie, possibly. One of these two is other Bessie. Good. The other cars I was hoping were here, in here. Yeah, these two are just base plates for these, basically. I've just noticed there's a massive crack in the top of that. Damn. But yeah, no, these are just base plates. One of these might be the original Bessie, but that's the original Bessie underneath there. Spare bodies, I'd actually say Metro and Metro. Yes, they're both Metro bodies. They're both the same thing. So, goes through, I've got more Metro. Oh, and, for good measure, here's another Metro. In fact, I can explain it because I actually ended up buying this chassis and this red one, and they came with Metro cars that were, absolutely fine, and I just took the chassis off and put them in the toolbox. Kept these to one side. Here is... don't even know what that is. Here is the other Lancia I mentioned, the one I said I painted and I wish I hadn't. Yeah, I kind of wish I hadn't painted it. But you know what? I did, and actually looking at it, I definitely could have done a much better, but much worse job. Also, there is a tiny feather. Oh. But yeah, no, this is the Lancia, and here's its lighting setup, and, brushes, and I don't even know what all this dirt is, but it's there. So that's the other Lancia, stored in the box forever. What a shame. Here's a random chassis. Don't even know. Is it a Metro by any chance? No, it's just made in Britain. I had a couple of these. I appear to only have one of these now. I had two. I must have sold one. Yeah, it's just a standard, what is it, a Lambo of some kind? This is one of the Hornby ones, you know, again, later on, 2000s most likely. Mo battery, Hornby, doesn't actually say. Quite a nice car, runs pretty well. I ran it at home on private tracks. Actually, looking at it, there you go. There is the second one I was talking about. Just, oh, it's a Diabolo. It's a Lamborghini Diabolo. With Team Brazil, I didn't notice that. You know, they're the same car. They're just different chassis. Different... Oh, a minute. Hang on. Are they both driving? What's that? Is he the navigator? He must be the navigator. I thought they were both driving for a second. But, you know, yeah, they're both the same car. They both run quite well. I like them. There's only 3 cars in here. Left. Here, have some random circuitry. I don't know what that's from. This is one that I was actually looking for. And it wasn't in there. Because, you know, when I mentioned old rip-offs, this is one of the ones. And unfortunately, it broke. Which I'm really cross, because it did run for a tiny, tiny bit. I think this is the one that's from Hong Kong. Made in Hong Kong. Yes, it's a Marx. It's a Marx Toys. Marx has created toys. And it ran on this interesting system where it's basically 2 pieces of rolled metal on a tiny little suspension spring. You put that on the track, it picks up the electricity. It's just got a post in the middle and drives the motors. These tyres are hard as hell. Unfortunately, this one, as you can see, snapped, and I just haven't got a replacement. I'd never opened it. It sort of spluttered into life a little bit, but then the thing broke. And there's a bit inside it. Oh, look, it's a Jaguar. Jaguar, driving really fast. Another, you know, Hornby one, sort of 2000s Hornby. It works fine. It's nothing wrong with it. I quite like it. I actually prefer it over the Diabolos just because it's a Jaguar. It's got a slightly sleeker shape. Very nice. And the last one. This is the last car. Oh my good bloody giddy aunt. Flipping heck. It is the last car. Though thinking about it, I actually have a Super Kings toy of this as well, which I thought about it, I would have brought it down. Have an Audi. Look at it. It's even got 3 front lights and a thing and a driver. And oh my God, there's an infection on the bottom, ready to wipe out mankind. And this actually, if you look at it, there's that. There's that. This is an earlier example of the 4-wheel drive, which isn't in place at the moment. These tyres are actually pretty good still. But yeah, this car could do 4-wheel drive. As it's an Audi, what do you expect? And I said I have a Super Kings, which is actually very nice. And I meant to bring it down and I forgot. And I'm not stopping the video again because I already have to take it into the editing software and play around with it to make that attic scene not so pathetic. But yes, that is a collection of slot cars and other bits and pieces and stuff that I have been collecting, Penny, for quite a long time. And yeah, I'm just going to sort of... God, this has got a lot of stuff for such a small thing. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, especially if I treat my slot cars without the respect that they deserve. Because trust me, I do. Bye-bye, everybody.